What's the Church of Scientology so afraid of?
This is SPTV.
Hello, everyone. Matt and Amy are back again to bring you some more information. Well, this last week I posted a video of Debbie Cook's testimony when she was being sued by Scientology. And that got me thinking that a lot of things need to be re-brought back up to the surface and exposed, because there's a whole new SPTV community that hasn't seen necessarily this earlier material. And Debbie Cook's testimony was extremely revelatory, and there's a lot more where that came from.
Yeah, and Debbie Cook, she was the captain of the Flag Service Organization for many years. She was like the face, one of the best-known Scientologists to the whole world of Scientology.
Yeah,
And
I think 17 years she was on that, in that position. Very, very loved.
Yeah, for her to have gone through what she went through, I'm telling you, any Scientologist that would ever see that video, what she had to say, I think they would leave Scientology. I think it's that powerful.
Yeah, it's so shocking. So I posted that, and I also posted my interview that I did with the, it was St. Petersburg Times at the time, now Tampa Bay Times. And I came out with Matt and did an interview exposing all of the abuse that was going on. So that's also been posted for everyone to see. Okay, so in June, I believe it was, of 2009, the Truth Rundown series was issued.
Yeah, they were coming out like every Sunday. It would be the front cover, would be this whole thing about Scientology. I mean, it was big time.
Well, the first one that came out was a 3-part series. It was done on the 21st, the 22nd, and the 23rd, and so it was like it took the world by, well, at least Tampa Bay by storm. But then it went viral and it went worldwide, and I think Joe Childs and Tom Tobin even won an award
Big time, yeah.
for that expose. And it was a whole series. Now, right directly after the Truth Rundown was issued, of course, we were living in Clearwater, on Clearwater Beach at the time, being followed around by Scientology private investigators nonstop, harassed. But we met with Joe Childs and Tom Tobin again and gave them contacts for people to speak out and tell their story that we knew had information that needed to be made known.
And the church at that time was saying that was just a couple of,
defrocked apostates.
Yeah, and they were like trying to put the whole thing down as something small and minor. So we were like, okay, let's get some more people to tell their stories and like really, put it front and forward.
Yeah. So yeah, it wasn't just a couple people. We were going to like, you think it's just a couple people, you'll see what's coming next. And so the next article that came out by the St. Pete Times was called Strength in Numbers. And it was a lot of people that came forward and corroborated the abuse that was witnessed at the INT base. That's when Mark Headley was on that, Claire Headley was on that, Gary Moorhead Jackson was on that. There's a lot of people. And the next series after that, or publication after that, was called, I don't know if it was in sequence, if that was the next one or not.
I don't know. It came out in November. That's
in November.
The story.
So in November 2009,
yeah,
another article came out by the St. Petersburg Times, and it was called Man Overboard. So the story behind that is we have a good friend named Don Jason.
Yeah, I first met Don Jason in about the end of 2005. I had just gotten to the Flag in Clearwater, and I was told I was in charge of renovating Fort Harrison. And I said, okay, good. And how big is the crew that I'm going to be working with? And there was only like about 8 guys or something. And I said, that's all I have to work with? And they said, well, there's one guy, and he's, he got in trouble. He's down washing pots or something. And I said, well, what did he do? And he said he got upset because this guy named Blaine, who just kind of walked around rolling cigarettes and being goofy and getting in people's way, Don had gotten upset with him or something, and didn't really do anything, like sprayed some paint in his direction or something, just to chase the guy away from, like, get away from me. He's trying to get some work done. So I went down to the galley and I saw Don. I said, hey, I'm a new guy running renovations here and stuff like that. You're not washing pots anymore. Come with me. We're going to, get to work. And Don was a really good worker, really hard worker. And we worked together in renovations for a couple of years, and it was great.
Yeah, well, Don rose up in ranks, and he became the chief officer of the Flag Service Organization, which is the second in command of that organization, directly under Debbie Cook. And he was on that for years, like it says, how many? He was on there for 7 years on that position. And in that position, he was your boss, right?
Yeah. I was the Treasury Secretary, and Don was my senior, and his senior was the captain of the FSO. So, yeah.
Debbie.
Yep, Debbie Cook. So.
Yeah, so he was there for a long time in an executive position at the Flag Service Organization. Yeah. So when we were talking to the St. Pete Times about other people who can expose their stories, we thought about Don. And we told Joe Childs and Tom Tobin his contact information. So then we get a call back from Joe Childs and Tom Tobin, who said Don didn't want to speak.
And the reason he didn't want to speak, I mean, he went through all this work to get away from the Church of Scientology and get them off his back, and he had a new life, a job. He had been out, I think, for about 10 years at that point. He had a 10-year-old son, and he really didn't want to bring the church back and to disrupt his life. But I talked to him, and he realized that the importance of exposing the criminality and the abuse that goes on in Scientology. So he put his neck out, and he said, yeah, okay, I'll tell my story.
And it's quite a story.
In August of 1996, Don was in charge of about 350 staff below him. And one of the staff members had done some kind of error or something that caused a flap to happen. And he was being held responsible for that flap, even though he had nothing to do with it other than being the senior over the area of, 350 people below him. And they wanted to discipline him for that. And he was like, yeah, he wasn't going to have it. And he wound up taking off, blowing. And when he took off as the chief officer of the FSO, the Flag Service Organization, it was a big deal. And they have in place what's called a blow drill, which is if somebody takes off, there's a whole lot of people who have a responsibility to do certain things. Some people run to the bus stations, some people go to the airports, some people, go to the local bars and
calling hotels, checking credit card usage.
For sure. What they did for him was like over the top. They actually set up a whole big room with phones in it, like about 15, 20 phones, and they staffed it around the clock, 24 hours a day for days. And all these people were just calling all the different hotels and places that they could possibly be in Florida and out of Florida. As the time went on, they started reaching further and further into the United States, checking hotels, trying to find if they had a Don Jason staying there. So I mean, it was on. They were hunting him down.
Wow! And you were his junior at that
I was
time,
his junior. Yeah. I mean, I went with another step member. I wasn't part of the blow drill, but just being concerned about him, I went out and seen if he was hanging out by the beach or something like that, and took a.
That was your excuse to go to the beach.
See if he was fishing at the beach.
He took a bush fishing pole.
I was undercover with my fishing pole, but yeah, so I took a look around for him and stuff like that, but he was long gone. It took him a while to track him down.
Yeah. So, and then when they got him back, they locked him down on the Free Winds, which is the Sea Organization's ship.
Yeah. And I was surprised that Don was able to escape that ship. Like nobody is supposed to be able to escape from there.
Yeah.
And, but he was very athletic at that time. I mean, I challenged him, like, you couldn't climb to Fort Harrison by, just using little finger grips in the corners of the building, going up to Fort Harrison. And one night, he climbed the Fort Harrison, just putting his little toes and fingers with no rope, no backup, nothing. And he climbed up that building. So, I mean, that's how athletic he was, so that he could actually figure out a way to get off that ship does not surprise me.
Yeah. we're really good friends with Don. We talk to him often, and he lived with us, with his son, and a couple times. And he's a fantastic guy. And I want his story to continue to be told. So here is Don Jason.
Great.
Why did I do this? Why did I come back? There was a reason I left, you know? And I'm looking at myself thinking, how did this happen? Why did you do this again? Now you got to go through this whole shit all over again to get out.
When Don Jason left Scientology, he knew how the church would come after him. Comb the airports, bus stations, and hotels, track his credit cards, scour personnel files for clues. As church staffers in Clearwater fanned out to their posts one morning in 1996, Jason took to the back roads. Within days, he had set up a low-profile life in Atlanta. Within weeks, the threat of losing family connections brought him back to the church. He sought to make amends and follow the church's procedure for leaving. He reached out to Marty Rathbun for help.
He came back and we did some sec checking and began the process and discussed it with Miscavige, and he said, I want the guy on the ship. Because if you go to the ship, it's the most secure place in the world because you turn your passport into the port captain. So even if you hop the ship in port, you can't get out of the country without a passport.
Jason was the chief officer at the Flag Land Base in Clearwater, a top manager inside the church and a potential threat on the outside. Aboard Scientology's cruise ship, the Freewinds, Jason says he was under constant surveillance and not permitted to leave. For a time, his room was locked. He was assigned to a program of heavy manual labor. Jason soon decided he wanted no part of the regimen. He insisted on leaving the ship. The staff's answer? Do the program.
What I decided to do at that time was kind of go along with it. I'll go along with the program, I'll pretend I'm cooperating, and I'm going to figure out how to get off this ship. The more I looked at that howser, I thought that actually is probably going to be my easiest way. I took a dowel, like a clothes hanger rod. I put the screws in there in between the PVC pipe so that it will roll, but it's not going to roll into my hands. And then I kind of made it a habit of doing the same routine every day. At lunchtime every day, I'd sit out at the same spot on the dock by the howser, so it looked like that's just what he does. I picked my moment. I had the day. I brought that tool. I kind of had it in my shorts, kind of down the side. And I did lunch like I had always done. We got to the island that I had planned to do it, and I was sitting up there in a position to go quickly over. And once it was time, I waited for the timing of the howser to wherever I wanted it. And then when I jumped over, I kind of got on the line with my legs over on each side. I had my arms. Then when I had one arm hooked, I pulled that rolling pin apparatus that I had made out, put it over like this, hooked it with my arm, dropped it down, and then went on down the line. And as I was going down that howser, you know, like clockwork, here they come. I could see them coming down, or I could see them out of my corner of my right eye. Here comes security, 3 of them. So I went up and said, okay, I knew this was going to happen. This was planned for. But I was making good speed, got down to the bottom. The last maybe 4 or 5 feet, I had to kind of crawl up that thing, get on the dock, pull myself up, get up to the cab, and I open up the door and start trying to talk to the guy, and they kind of catch me at that point because that's a couple seconds. They catch up. They're trying to kind of keep me from not going into the cab. They're kind of blocking me from going to the cab. They're arguing with me. I'm saying I'm going. I'm talking to the cab drivers. They're in an airport. Take me to an airport. They're telling them I shouldn't leave. I can't leave. I'm there on the ship's authority, that type of thing. And I'm pushing the guy off, and I end up slamming the door in his hand. And I'm screaming at the cab driver. I eventually just turn to the cab driver, and I tell the guy, I says, you know, I'm being held against my will. Take me to a goddamn airport.
I get this call. Don Jason is on a plane heading for Atlanta because he escaped the Freewinds, to which I was, you know, shocked, because how do you escape the Freewinds? You know, how do you get out of a Caribbean country without a passport?
With nothing but a driver's license and some temporary checks from a Florida bank account, Jason managed to talk his way into a plane ticket and through customs. On the first leg of his journey to his mother's home in Milwaukee, Jason says he was hounded by an executive from Scientology's intelligence arm. Then on a layover, Marty Rathbun appeared.
And I followed Don. He went down to the smoking lounge, went in there, lit up a smoke. I walked in, and his jaw dropped because last thing, he just got away from Ludwig, and suddenly I was there.
Come on back, you know. At this point, we're not trying to keep you, you know. We don't want you on staff anymore. You're good. You can leave, but come on back to Clearwater, and we will have you do a routing form. In the process of having this conversation, you know, I realized that I'm missing my connecting flight. I realized what time it is, so I said, you know, time's up. I got to go. And I started basically jogging to make my connecting flight. Marty was following me down there with me, kind of stride for stride. I give him my boarding pass. I get on the plane, and then at the last minute, he's like, "Dave wants to talk to you."
Dave wants to talk to you. He says, "Well, I don't want to talk to him." Turns around, heads up the airway to the plane. And again, Don thinks this is the end of it, right? Well, 5 minutes later, I get on the plane, and Don's like 3/4 of the way back in the plane, and he's looking at some in-flight magazine. He puts his head up, and he sees me coming down the thing, and I get the second jaw drop. You know, he's like, you know, it's like the Terminator. The guy just keeps coming, you know.
Rathbun went to Milwaukee. The two negotiated a series of confessions and waivers that could be used against Jason should he decide to go public against the church. Jason, too, wanted some assurance that his ordeal was over.
What do I have to do? I said, if I go to Alaska, are you going to follow me? I said, where do I have to go? How far do I have to go? I'm not coming back. I'm not a church hater, but I'm not coming back.
For TampaBay.com, this is Tom Tobin.
Thank you for watching this video. As you can see, this is why I want the information to be kept in the forefront. It's important to see how Scientology treats people who want to leave. They lock them on a ship in the middle of the ocean. Luckily, Don was athletic and able to get off that ship and created a way and means to do so. And luckily, people let him leave without his passport because Scientology had confiscated that. But I just want this stuff to be put in front of everybody so you can spread the word that Scientology is a destructive cult that practices human trafficking because people are not free to come and go as they please. I've included a link to the original article in the description of this video so that you can see that. And I want to thank Joe Childs and Tom Tobin because they did a lot of hard work to expose Scientology and get the truth out. And today it's still being made known. Thank you again for watching. Please hit the like button, smash that subscribe button, and also join as a member on my channel because you get to see exclusive photographs, bloopers, outtakes, and videos for members only. All right, bye for now.